It's Wednesday. Welcome to Atomic Habits, everybody. One of my great habits is the gym every morning. And as you can tell, I'm not all the way done yet. So time to hit the showers and get ready for the day. But you all are in for a special treat today. I have a friend of mine, Justin, who's out of Kalispell, Montana. He's actually a talk show host. I know he's done business development, rockstar real estate, professional in multiple states, runs what's called Montana Camp each year, which is a giant mastermind for real estate agents across the country. Believe it or not, people actually go from all over the place to go to Montana to hear what Justin and his group has to say. So he today is going to give us some secrets on, some unexpected ways, I believe, to grab a bunch more production for you. And, without stealing too much more thunder, I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to Justin and let him have at it.
Man, that was awesome. Can I hire you, Russell? I need to update my bio. That was great, dude. I appreciate that. First of all, it's good to see so many faces. I don't jump on calls like this as much as I should. I was thinking about that statement you made, Russell, like one of my morning habits is the gym. And I was thinking, I need to be a little bit more deliberate about communicating with people or connecting with people outside of my world, because it's great. I love when we get together, share a few ideas. I guarantee that, there's an element that you do that's absolutely excellent that I'd love to hear about sometime too. I, first of all, don't want to claim to be a master at anything. I'm a very good student. I continue to learn every day. I trip all the time. I fall off my bicycle still. That being said, I have more fun in real estate than most people do. And that's because I'm an event-based prospector. I'm an event-based marketer. I have events all the time that lead to business. And therefore it doesn't even, honestly, guys, it doesn't even feel like work. Like it's just so fun. So I was thinking about this yesterday and I wrote a few things down. I'm not really like a fancy slideshow guy. I mean, the waiting screen for me was super cool. Like we're kind of lo-fi up here in Montana, like we're really just a big, small town. And for anybody who has visited, if you saw that's it. We're just a big, small town. We're very neighborly. Like this is considered fancy, and it's just a $99 blazer that I found at H&M when I was visiting some major city, which we don't even have H&M. So like, it's just a different way. I grew up in North Carolina in a big city, and my college buddy got into real estate, and within his first year of graduating college, he had paid off all of his debt and he was buying a second home as an investment property. And here I am graduating, attempting to find my way through the business world, debt with my college loans, not owning a home. Like I was in a very different walk than he was. And so I said, I got to do that. I got to get into what you're doing. And so in 2006, I did get into real estate in North Carolina. And then in 2008, I found myself moving to Montana for my family. 2008, for those of you who were around, wasn't the easiest year to be in real estate. And it also wasn't the easiest year. Therefore, if you were in real estate, it certainly wasn't the easiest year to switch markets, especially going from big city to poor little town. Like not only were the prices very different, the way people walked was different. The way the shoes that you wear were different. Like I wear Vans secretly because I still love them. However, you got to wear cowboy boots around here. So I see Don's laughing, and maybe you get that. That's awesome. However, when I got into the industry, I got my license in 12, and I started selling in 13. I only sold 3 units my first year. My first piece of business was a listing that I sucked at, and so I lost it. And then my second piece of business was a buyer, and so it was my third. And then my next 2 were buyers, and then my last one of the year was another listing that sent me over the edge, and I made a little bit of money. However, my second year I jumped up to 19, and then my third year I did 21. And that in this market is considered a top producer. So I started getting a lot of phone calls, and a lot of people were asking, like, who's this new kid? What is he doing? And I was grinding, guys. It was hard. I was liking that I was making more money than I was as a bartender. However, it wasn't fun. And so I called my buddy back east and I said, what do you do? And he says, out there, Justin, you're probably going to have to do things a little uncommonly. And I was like, okay. So I was actually thinking, how do you become the uncommon agent? And this is what, 2014, 2015, Zillow was big, right? Like whoever could throw more money at Zillow would get the leads. Realtor.com was big. I think that was about all we had. Like, I don't have a LinkedIn profile, guys. Let me put this into perspective. I don't have a LinkedIn profile. I'm barely a .com agent. I actually don't buy leads at all. I don't even have a profile on homes.com or realtor.com. I have one on Zillow that hasn't been updated since 2014. I know some of you are thinking, gosh, he's breaking the 10 commandments of real estate, because maybe in those marketplaces, that stuff works really well. Here it's handshakes and knowing their third child's name. Like, it's so relationship driven here. And therefore what I'm sharing with you is not to share how different things are, because actually a lot of things are very much the same. What I want to share with you is stuff that I think you guys could use in your areas. If you're in a more densely saturated area, man, you guys would crush it. You would take this and take it to a completely new level. So when I started to think about do things a little uncommonly, I was looking at like, okay, if I could throw $50 a month at Zillow, then the guy who throws 60 is going to beat me. If I could throw 100 at Zillow, then the guy who throws 150 is going to beat me. So that's common. Or I could not throw any money at Zillow and throw a big party. And so the very first thing I did was host a community open house in my neighborhood. So I became a homeowner in Montana in 2015. And I was very proud of that because I bought it owner finance. And this is one of my secrets. And when I did that, I flipped the home and now made it pretty. And so I decided to open it up to my neighbors and say, hey, come look at what me and my 2 kids did to this home. So I had about 20 people come through the home. I was handing out my business card. I was shaking people. I got leads right there off of that. Like, they were like, help me do this. Help me become a homeowner. Help me do this, whatever. So I started to have conversations around owner finance. That's how I bought my first home. That's how I bought my first rental property. Guys, today I've bought in 7 homes, all owner finance, just personally. Now, I know that's not like a very big number, except for that's 100% of all the real estate I own, which is a big number. It's done owner finance. So I sort of consider myself in my area, the owner finance master, which is what led to a talk show. I'll get to that later. And today I wrote an offer yesterday for some buyers, an owner finance contract. It's very strong. I think we're going to get it accepted. And that would be my 67th owner finance contract in my marketplace. That's not my own, right? And then there's 11 more that I've written outside of the state in 2 other states on behalf of other agents for those people. And so I'm going to get to what that sounds like in a little bit. However, the point was I had to do things a little differently to be known a little uncommonly. So it was around my 5th year in the business. I'm now a homeowner. I had a couple of rental properties, and I was brokering these owner finance contracts that I started to hold owner finance workshops. And so I partnered up with a title company that had long-term escrow, and we would do quarterly events, workshops, if you will, around owner finance and how and why you should do it. That was simply all it was called, owner finance, how and why you should do it. And interestingly enough, I did put this as an event on Facebook. However, I got more traction in the local newspaper. Weird. I know, weird. It's just how we roll up here. So I think the takeaway there would be know what your audience reads or taps into. And I said, I don't have LinkedIn. In your marketplaces, maybe LinkedIn is worth it. And that's great. I'm just going where it works in my place. And believe it or not, it's the local newspaper. Still, I know, weird. I get it. One day we'll step up into the .com stuff. However, that was what took my business in that 4th and 5th year to phenomenal levels. And I started to think, wow, if I bring people together, with an intention to share ideas and to do, as the phrase goes, come from contribution, like, hey, this is how I did it, and this is what I'd like to share with you, then people are going to listen. They're going to remember me. And I still get calls from those events. Like, hey, are you still teaching owner finance? Yeah, every day I teach owner finance. So we do that. Today, my wife and I are in business together. We actually started an independent brokerage. So we have an independent company here in the area, and we hold a workshop. We hold a community-focused workshop 10 out of 12 months. The only months we elect to not do that would be May and December. And really, because historically I've not been successful to ever get anybody in Montana to do anything in May or December. December, that we'd rather go skiing. You've got the holidays and stuff like that. And in May, Memorial Day weekend is probably the biggest holiday recreationally in Montana. Like we wait 13 months for our 3 days of summer, so we're going to do it. So a little bit of an exaggeration. And by the way, how does this go, Russ? You guys have questions so far. I am much more of a conversationalist, not a like I don't want to just hog on the air.
I think you've piqued the interest, so they're ready for the magic.
Yeah, I have one question, which would be, what are you typically seeing as a interest rate that the owners are willing to do in this environment?
We typically start the conversation with, what's the rate today? Let's come down a point, right? So the one we wrote yesterday is 6.5%. The magic that we have is it's a 3-year note, a 3-year term, 36 months, nothing more. And I provide my own personal assurance on that with the seller. So the contract that I have with my seller, first of all, I charge 4.5% commission. And then I say, look, I'm in business with you for 36 months. I will assure these people will buy this home or I will buy it. And if you don't want me to buy it, we'll go back to the market. So I'm in business with a seller for 36 months, 3 years, 4.5% interest payable on close, so when the occupants take possession and they're at 6.5%, or usually it's rate -1, they hold it for 3 years. And then after 3 years, I work with those buyers to get them qualified to buy the home. So now I have two people who are raving fans, the seller and the buyer. So
are you structuring that as an interest-only deal, or is there amortization typically? Or?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Ammed for 30 years, balloon in 3, right? So amortized 30 years, balloon in 3. That's what piques their interest. Most of the people that I have a conversation with, and the one that we yesterday, it was a FSBO. And I just said, look, would you owner finance? Oh, heck no, I won't do that. Let me ask you, if you don't mind, can I ask why? Well, I attempted that years ago and they couldn't do it. If you don't mind me asking, how long did you do that? Well, gosh, I think they were my tenant for like 6 years. Well, that's the problem. Don, that's the problem. Why don't we shorten that? What if I could show you a plan of success? And here's my book. Here's the testimonials from these past people. I've helped 67 people to date in this marketplace become homeowners. And that also means I've helped 67 sellers net more money. You know why the banks like the interest rates? Because they're making a lot of money. I'd like for you to make that money too. Oftentimes I'm showing them how if they're on the market for $400,000 at 6.5% interest for 3 years, they're putting $140,000 more in their pocket than if they were to list it today. Now, it doesn't always work. Some of them need to sell and get all that capital and move on. And I get that. That's fine. However, that's where my focus is. Every day I wake up. Okay, so I think when I saw that email come through, one of the, I think, working titles for our conversation today was how to run an ideal business, which I loved for 2 reasons. One, that's the name of our company. And 2, it makes me think of fun. Like it's ideal to have fun. So when I wake up in the morning, my first thought is who am I going to help today? It's not so much like, oh gosh, how many phone calls do I need to make? And where am I going to lead generate? And so on and so on and so on. What is the typical down payment? Sorry, Don. Yeah, I kind of cut you off there. 5 to 10%. Sometimes 20. However, we are negotiating 5% on this one. 5 to 10. It's the 3-year that's the magic note. And then it's also the assurance that I'm giving them. Like, first of all, look, you're going to save on commission. If you were to list traditionally with me right now, I'm going to ask for 5 to 6% commission so that I can offer it to the other side as well. However, I have this couple. They're very well interested in this property. They can work. I've been working with them for 6 or 7 months, getting them vetted to make this purchase. They're already talking to a lender. It's just for these reasons they can't make it happen today. However, I can assure you that inside of 36 months, they can buy you out. You can move on to greener pastures. And if they can't, I will. So it's that simple. And that's why we can kind of come down on the down payment a little bit. A lot of them like to say, well, I want 20 or 30 or even 50% down. And I say, no one's going to give you that. Like if they had 50% down, they'd go to the bank. Do you wrap the existing mortgage or deal with homes owned outright? Both. Okay. So we don't do wraps because those are frowned upon. What I'll do is a lease with purchase, right? So if there's an existing mortgage, which oftentimes there is, we negotiate a lease with purchase agreement. That's a legit form in Montana. It is a little bit more risky on the buyer part. However, when you're dealing with 36 months and you're securing it in a title company, so therefore there is an open file for 3 years, you've got a paper trail of ownership interest. In the lease with purchase agreement, we do have a conversation around homeowners insurance and taxes, and we negotiate that. It's oftentimes the seller will continue to pay and the buyer will reimburse. We use long-term escrow so that they can build a payment history and then easily walk into any bank, typically a credit union, and just get a loan. It's pretty awesome. The best part of that is the 36th month when they can finally say, wow, we did it. And they're absorbing a ton of equity. And the seller gets to walk away saying, wow, 3 years ago, I could have sold it for $450, except for, man, they put $150 more in my pocket and I got bought out. So it's a win-win-win. That was how I sold my first home. So I bought my first home owner finance, and then I sold it for owner finance to the tenant in the house. And that's when the magic went off. I was like, whoa, I could do this. So anyways, I love these questions because this is where my one thing is. I love to help people with creative financing or creative purchasing and owner finance. So therefore, my whole book of business, like I said, my wife and I are licensed. We've helped hundreds, if not over 1,000 people in our marketplace with real estate purchases and sales. And that book obviously serves us because we're very deliberate about staying on top of our people and communicating with them and calling. And we call a person every day. We call a past client every day. And I include that my owner finance people. When I broker that deal, I call, they're in that rotation too. So we have probably about 40% of our business is off market because it's all owner finance. Go ahead, Don.
What is the language for you backing, like, let's say that the buyer, for whatever reason, can't perform in that 36 months. What's the language that you have around you then taking the deal out?
Yeah, good question. And I love the question because they ask that question too. And I start the conversation with this. I'm going to write you 2 offers. One is theirs, asking for 36 months for you to carry at these terms. 2 is mine. Should they default, I'm buying it at this price. And I usually bake in a 4% appreciation year over year, right? So $100,000 and then it's 104 the next year. And then it's a little over 108 the next year. 4% is, I think, generous. It's also safe because our values, exclude 2020 and 21 and 22. Our values traditionally appreciate about 6 to 8% year over year. So I feel like 4 is comfortable and generous at the same time. And so they like that. They like that there's the safety net called just in buying the home. I have yet to do that though, because not one person has defaulted. And I think the magic is the 3 years. And not all of them, many of them have bought them out early. So we do have no prepayment penalty. Some people bought it out. Some of them have bought it out in less than 12 months. And some sellers have asked, like, if I'm going to play this game, I want to hold the note for at least 24 months. And so we do have that stipulation if necessary. I love it, guys. I'm going to give you a little insight. Other than my wife and just my wife, I love this so much. I'm writing a book about it. And, I think the average book of this caliber is around 80 to 90,000 words. And I'm at 37,000 as of this morning. I was writing in it a little bit. And it starts with my own personal story and how that led to understanding how the real estate industry has been a tremendous blessing to me and my family, and how that I was able to turn that around and serve to date 67 families and sellers, plus 11 outside of the state. And infinitely more when I get in groups like this and encourage you guys to think this way too, because if you go out and bless just one more person a year in this capacity, that's one more that you wouldn't have got through any of the .coms, right? So we look at it that way. We're at the point now where we refer the traditional business. I don't really like it anymore. Like, oh, seller, here, you take them. I don't want them. I'm bragging, I'm exaggerating just a little bit because if they're inside of our sphere, I'll take it. But however, if it's a lead, kind of goes to one of my agents. I'd rather go fish for the person who needs a little bit of salvation. And by the way, I don't know what your markets are like. Our market took off. Obviously, a lot of us did. However, I believe Montana was leading the nation in net migration with regards to how many people came to the state versus how many people left. I think we were like number 3 in net migration. And so we've seen a tremendous amount of people come to our state, which put a lot of downward pressure on how home prices, and then puts a lot of pressure on the local market, right? So what a lot of people like to call affordable housing or the workforce housing gap, if you will. Ours is pretty hard. And so owner finance is a very, very great tool to alleviate that pressure and at the same time still get your seller some really good money.
Hey, Justin, who's your ideal buyer client and who's your ideal seller client, and how have you been prospecting for the two?
Who's my ideal buyer client? So, I run an ad on rotation in our paper, which simply just says, like, I've helped a lot of people buy the home that they're renting. Call me today for a free consultation. And so my phone will ring a couple times a week on that. The person who on the other end of the phone is most ideal to me if they are adequately employed or even self-employed. If they've got some money in the bank. I don't care about FICO scores because you can fix any FICO inside of 3 years. I don't even ask. I ask them what they think it is. However, you're welcome, Stephanie. Thank you for listening. I just want to see that they're driven. Long time on the job is good because that's obviously proof in the pudding, right? Like I know how to do this. So if they come and listen to me and sit down through a pretty lengthy consultation, that becomes my ideal buyer. And then I go on the hunt for them. So when I then go knock on a FSBO, that's the first person I'm talking about. Right? So I'll just ask them, like, look, I call on the FSBO. So the ideal seller is a FSBO, right? So the ideal seller is, and what's a FSBO? Somebody who doesn't know. Somebody who doesn't know the magic of either the market, either USA Home Bids, or either the fact that they can, make more money and be a tremendous blessing to another person by doing owner finance. So then I just ask them, like, look, let me ask you this question. Have you ever considered owner finance? And the answer almost all the time is no. And sometimes the answer is no because, which is actually my favorite response. So then I just get into that conversation. Well, if I can ask you why you would say no. Well, what if I were to share with you that I've done this over 67 times in our county alone with people very much like yourself and families across the street, bridging the gap between two of them, and you didn't have to leave any money on the table. It is very ideal for a self-employed buyer, and that's typically the people that I get. I don't know if it's so much because it's the owner finance ad, or I call it buy the home that you're renting. Like that my ad reads, talk to me about how you can buy the home that you're renting today. Phone number. That's all it says, right? And so the phone will ring. They'll talk to me. Interestingly, sometimes this turns into inventory for sale, like, because then I'll get on the phone with their landlord, like, oh, I just want to dump the property, and then I list it, no problem, and then I help those guys buy something else. Where was I going with this? I lost my train of thought, guys. I'm so sorry.
Prospecting free and clear properties that are non-owner occ to buying the home that you're renting seems like it would be pretty ideal, right?
It's very ideal. I do that on the regular. So about every other month, we partner up with a title company, and my wife will address all the letters herself. The fact that we have 2,800 homes in our area that are owned by a little over 200 individuals. The fact that I know these numbers is because we send these letters out every other month. We type up a letter, and then we put it in an envelope. 64 cents is the stamp, and then we handwrite all of the letters so that they have a higher open capacity. I'm currently working on a website so that they can go for testimonials. Like I said, man, I'm about a decade behind on all of the tech stuff because we just haven't needed it up here. We still knock on the door to borrow a cup of sugar kind of thing. Do most of the successful sales come from off market? Yes. Or do you have success with homes listed? I do. I will search our MLS for seller financing, owner financing. I will also look at stale inventory. So oftentimes when I'm tired of looking at our hot sheet, because guys, let me put it into perspective and compare this to where your world is right now. Flathead County is the county that I live, work, and play in. It is larger than the state of Connecticut. Okay, so 5,500 square miles is the size of my county. I put 60,000 miles on my car a year. So I do a lot of driving, and that's a lot. We have 111,000 people who call that county home. We have 1,300 agents in our association. So I don't know how that compares to your world. However, that does translate to around, on average, 2,200 residential real estate transactions a year in our county. So you're not talking about big numbers. To be a top producer in our area, you're doing 50 units a year. And it's you in like 3, right? So so it's like a cliff, from 50 to 20 to 5. Now, granted, our average sale price is conducive to where 5 units a year is a good living. So that's our market. So like I said, if I want to do the .com race, I'm going to be spending a lot of money to then split it and then to maybe get it or not. I don't know. I'd rather not spend the money. I'd rather lick a stamp, and you don't even have to do that anymore. It's just stamps.com. And then just connect with them on an organic level. And I think the next part of my business is to create a funnel through a website that just takes people into learn more and then get qualified right there on the website and then filter it down. And I do connect them with a lender immediately. And I do have some of the people that I work with the most are the ones that get outside the box a little bit. And they're also not afraid to wait for a paycheck, right? So the lenders that are like, I want to close this in 30 because I got to go pay for my kid's college, I'm not talking to them. The lender that doesn't mind dancing with somebody for 3 years and even providing some financial counsel is the people that I do business with. Patrick, though, yes, I do search the MLS. I do. But my favorite feature on Zillow is for sale by owner. Right? I go to Zillow, go to for sale by owner, and I call them. And actually, I'll call them. 40% of them will answer. Half of those will hang up on me. So I might have 2 phone calls a week because of calling FSBOs on Zillow. However, all of them get a letter. All of them get a letter, and that's the better way to go. It's almost even not worth calling. I just send them a letter. And that's why I like the idea of the website, because I can send them a letter and they can validate it online. And here's some video testimonials from these people that I've helped. Great model. We appreciate you sharing. You bet, Justin. Man, I love it. This isn't genius. This isn't like, I'm not doing anything that none of you can't do 10 times better. Like, it's just, it was born organically in my world. And it showed up in my world. I was going through a terrible divorce right after, I can do that. Yeah. I'll email you the letter, Russell. And I think you'll be shocked at how simple it is. it's so simple. Simple work. Yeah. In fact, the first time I wrote it, I was like, this is too complicated. And it was like 4 sentences. So I had to hack it down from there. I'll email you a copy of the letter, Russell. And guys, look, I'll share my number. I would love to be a resource for you in your area. Like if you need help with that, let me know. I'll get on the phone, I'll talk to people, and we'll make it happen. It is important to have a good title partner, though. You need to have a good title partner because there's things that you want to make sure that you protect them with. If you just loosey-goosey this and fly over it, you could get in a lot of trouble because it's admittedly, it's higher risk. It's higher risk because you're getting into partnership for 3 years. And partnerships don't, always work out. Where I was going with all of this, though, was my friend had shared with me, in your marketplace, you're going to have to just do things a little uncommonly. And that's what showed up at first. And then when I started doing first-time home buyer seminars and homeowner workshop seminars, and then obviously how to buy the house that you're renting seminars, I started to do these things, 3 or 4 or 5 times a year. And now it's time blocked on our calendar. Every year, it's part of our business planning, 10 events a year. So once a month, except for May and December, because I like to have fun too. We calendar out our public-facing seminars around homeownership. So the last one we did, or the one we did last year, the last one of last year, was in November. And that's when everybody gets their second property tax bill in Montana. And we had gone through a pretty dramatic property tax reassessment. So guess what I hosted? Understanding your property taxes. Come to the Hilton Garden Inn. 60 people showed. 42 people are now in my database because of that meeting, and 2 of them went under contract. All I had to do was rent the room for an hour. And all I did then, what's that?
Do you have affiliates help sponsor it, provide food? You just put the bill yourself?
In fact, the first thing I say to people is like, look, I'm not here to feed you any food. I'm here to feed you knowledge. So rather than buying this spread of food that half of you aren't going to eat anyways, and then I get to take home to my kids, which is probably not a bad idea because they're teenagers and they're monsters. I'd love to just get right to the point. You got this bill? I don't like it either. Let's talk about it. So then the county commissioner, one of the county commissioners is there. I did get a House district representative who obviously wanted to FaceTime because he's up for re-election. He was there. And then I also got a property tax assessor there. And then there was me. So we had political, legal, and market conversations around the property tax bill. And so we discussed it. We understood the origin of it. We understood why it was confusing. And then we discussed solutions. And it was then that everybody learned that there's 17 ways that you can apply for a property tax reduction in Montana. Nobody knew that before because our government is terrible at communicating opportunity. That's not a political statement. That's just the truth. So that's it. So the solution there, guys, was what does the consumer need? Fill it. Well, we don't understand property taxes. And when I heard all of the chatter about this reassessment, I was like, ooh, I'm just going to get a bunch of people in the room and we're going to talk about this to a high level. It also helps that I hold a talk show on the weekends on our local FM talk station. And I've been doing that for 8 years. It was my events, though, that led to that. It was literally my first time homebuyer events that caused one of the radio station representatives to say, would you consider doing this on the air? So 8 years ago, the Flathead Home Show was born, and I used that as a platform to communicate my events. It is a non-political, non-branded real estate talk show. So my real estate brokerage doesn't sponsor it. It doesn't have to because everybody knows me anyways. I do have affiliates that jump in on that every once in a while, like lenders and home service providers and things like that. However, that's, again, uncommon. I got into that. You know what I pay for that? Nothing. Now, you know what they pay for me for that? Also nothing. However, you know what I get out of that? A lot of business, a lot of conversation. So if you do a podcast and you find that you're talented in that, go talk to your local radio and use the podcast as your pitch platform. Like, hey, look, I've got all these followers and these people like it. Radio, believe it or not, and I don't want to downplay podcasts because I think they're cool too. Radio is more powerful. Radio reaches everyone. And you don't have to search for it. It's there automatically. It just shows up. It's really weird. I thought that radio was going to die too when Sirius and XM came out. Just got more powerful. So I get a lot of business that way. If you're in a rural area, that's going to be a gold mine. And all you got to do is talk about what is relevant in real estate. So the upcoming developments, obviously property taxes are huge. And then hold your own home buyer workshops, mortgage hacks. That is a good one. So a couple of years ago, my wife and I were running wild with mortgage hacks, like pay off your mortgage, what do they call it? Escalation, pay off your mortgage faster, and how to leverage HELOCs to buy investment properties. So we got together with investors and we got together with creative financing professionals, and even hard money lenders were at these events, since we were talking about that too. So I wrote down in my notes though here, like the uncommon elements that I do are, one, the events. I do a lot of events. I do an event a month with the exception of May and December. And the other reason why I exempt May is because for 4 years now, we've hosted Montana Camp, which is Montana's largest real estate convention. It is a 2.5-day event. You can look that up if you'd like, montanacamp.org. That happens every May in Montana, and it's a fantastic time of the year to come visit. I'd love to meet you guys in person. It is not branded to any particular real estate brand. It is, as they like to say, brand agnostic. It's really just a 2.5 powerhouse of ideas and innovation, meeting individuals like Russell, who are also very creative. So Montana Camp was born because I found that I have this thing for making events, and I was like, well, how do I make it bigger? And how do I make it bigger? So now we have the state's largest real estate conference. That leads to a tremendous amount of referral business for us. And then I wrote hack number 2 is literally consistent communication. And that's the radio, because I'm heard every week on the radio. And I wrote in my notes here, look, everyone's doing a podcast, and that's not a statement against their value. I'm a believer as well. However, it is something that you're going to have to work harder to stand out from. Whereas all you got to do is get on FM radio and start talking to people, and you're going to already stand out. And you are the local professional. Who better to talk about the real estate market on the air than the local professional? And then the last one, check this out. This might be a cool hack. This worked really well for me. Past closing follow-up like a boss. So check this out. In 2020, what I did here is I went through my sales from 2020 and earlier. And if your MLS allows you to go to your sales and then sort them chronologically, then you're probably ahead of the rest of us. So do that. Go to around 2020 or maybe 2021. For the sides that you were the seller agent on, check to see if the buyer agent is still in business. So for our MLS, all I got to do is click on their name. And if nothing shows up, then I know that they're done, right? They moved out of the market or they left. Then at that point, and I wrote, and there's a strong chance that they're not. So in 2022, I did this in 2020, and probably half the people were out of business already. So, and I said, I looked through this, it was right at 50%. Send them a CMA. You have the address, you sold the house, you're very familiar with it, you already sold it. You're the best person to do it again. Send them a CMA. And I wrote in my letter, as a business practice, my team reviews all of our transactions on an annual basis. Oftentimes, we use past transactions to train our new agents. Recently, your home was a subject of a training exercise, and we'd like to extend our gratitude for first, the business, and secondly, the opportunity to have a case study for our new agents. These were our findings. Mic drop. Phone rings. Is this legit? Yes. Oh, and the reason why I'm sending this to you is because I attempted to call the agent that helped you. Couldn't find them. Or I'll say something like, they must have moved out of the market because they're not active in our MLS anymore. Grab. Gold mine. So that was a lot of business that my wife and I grabbed simply by going to that banner year, 2020, 2021, looking at the co-op agent, seeing if they're out of business. About 50% of them were out of business or out of market, and just sent them a CMA with a cover letter. And we position it as, and this is actually legit because I do use my past sales to train my new agents. And I'll say my team, as a business practice, my team reviews our transactions on an annual basis. Oftentimes we use past transactions to train our new agents. Recently, your home was a subject of a training exercise. And we'd like to extend our gratitude for first, the business, and secondly, the opportunity to have a case study for our new agents. Here were our findings. Yes, you can, Don. You can do the same strategy in a geofarm. What they love about that is a number of things. You're training new agents, right? That's the mission. I pulled up this listing. I pulled up this past sale, trained new talent with it. Oh, and then I'm sharing with you the results. This is what we found. I'm not married to these results. It's just what we trained our agents to. Chances are, though, the results are really nice. And they looked at it like, wow, is my house really worth this much? And now you're the agent, top of mind. What's that, Don?
In a geofarm, I think when you're doing that, if you do it in conjunction like you do, you chose 2020, but if you choose their anniversary date,
yeah,
I think that, and then you've verified that their agent's no longer available. Wow. You can probably take over that neighborhood.
Well, we don't lead with that statement because, when my wife and I were workshopping this idea, one of the things that we pride ourselves on is the words that we use. We believe that words are a habitual understanding of someone's personality. But oftentimes we get into habit with our words, and we allow them to sometimes lead in a misleading way. And so my wife and I audit our vocabulary often. And we'll even audit, like we'll be talking at dinner. It'd be like a date night. And we're like, did you really mean that word? I don't know if we're just, word geeks or whatever it is. So when we were word shopping our letter, we did start with, hey, the agent that helped you buy this is out of business. Call us. It wasn't that blunt. However, it was with that intention. And then we thought, we don't even need to say that.
No.
I already know they're out of business. They already know they're out of business because they haven't heard from them since the sale, right? So, the other hack, and this shows, and I know we're running short on time. However, we do offer. So when we take a listing, we tell, and this is the seller's choice. However, we do say, hey, in exchange for us being your full service agent, we are going to provide full service all the way, including buying a home warranty for you to gift to the new homeowner. Okay, so we buy the warranty. It's warranted while it's listed. Now it's closed, and that warranty transfers from us, technically, however, from the seller to the buyer. We leave the booklet in the drawer with probably the garage remote and the keys and our business card. How many times I've gotten called simply because they're going through their junk drawer and they're like, oh my gosh, here's the realtor, right? Like, hey, I got your card. It was in my drawer. It's been there for 4 years. Can you give me an opinion of value? Or is my home warranty still good? Because we got a problem. What's the problem? And then, so that's also been important to us, is arming ourselves with, yes, it's nice to know title people and lenders. It's also nice to know repairmen, women, roofers, people who can do siding, dishwashers, all that kind of stuff. So like typically if they say things like, well, yeah, we were wanting, if they're fixing the house, they're thinking about its value. If they're thinking about its value, they need to be thinking of you. Whether you brought them the home or you sold the home, whatever it is, they need to be thinking about you. So that's about our time, isn't it, Russell?
No, it is. It's funny too. We're about to kick off our virtual coaching, and you do all 4 things. We say you need to do 3 of them to make 6 figures. We coached a bunch of people to 6 figures, and work your sphere with a really good CRM. You got that check. Then we tell them you only got to do 1 of 2. You either got to really nail down your farm, or you got to pick a niche. You got both of those nailed, which I think is really hard to do both. And then you got to hustle a bit. And oh my gosh, do you guys have that one knocked out? FSBOs, strategic marketing on folks. So super impressed. And I would love to interview you on the seller-owned financing piece for our coaching. Because as we get into niches, we tell people, get really good at a niche. So good that people come to you and your career is set, especially if you do a good job with your CRM, with your sphere, and you're willing to hustle a little bit. I mean, it's hard to not make 6 figures. It really is. But, they have to roll up their sleeves, wake up in the morning, take a shower, go to work, and actually do the things that work. So totally appreciate your time. I guess we have like 1 minute for questions and then we'll wrap up. And I know Tom always likes to talk about Freedom Friday. So I'll shut up and see if there's any questions and let Tom wrap us up.
Yeah, well, that was great. I think Tom. Oh, yeah, is he still here?
I think that's Eric. I think Tom might have had to jump off. So
hey, but Justin, that was great stuff. We greatly appreciate it, and I love it because it's so timely with the interest rate sensitivity and buyers being priced out of the market. If you guys need need some leads to take into this with this letter to the homeowners, just call a loan officer and say, hey, do you have somebody that would qualify at 6.5 but is priced out at 7.5? And then use Justin's strategy and say, when you're talking to the seller, say, this guy's actually been pre-approved at 6.5. He just got priced out.
That's genius. Yeah, that's exactly it. You wrapped it up in fewer words than I did. So thank you for that. Because you're absolutely right. They're qualified at 6.5. They're not at 7.5. So give us 3 years to either get them qualified at 7.5, or should those rates adjust to 6.5, we're done.
That's right.
Yeah. And the best person to sell your house to is the one that's renting it. And the best tenant to have is the one that's buying it. Like,
totally.
Goodness, yep. It's so easy. I have so many landlords and I'm one of them. So many landlords in the area that are like, oh, I'm so tired of this business because I have to replace carpet or flooring or paint doors every time somebody leaves the house. I'm like, just sell it. Sell it. Let somebody else accomplish the American dream. So.
Yeah. Great job. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you guys. This has been fun. I love to lead with fun, and I'm having fun in our industry. I think we're absolutely blessed to have as much fun as we do, helping people to the capacity that we do. So appreciate you guys doing the same thing.
Love it. Love it. And you're Don's favorite. Don loves events, and events absolutely work. There hasn't been an event that I haven't got a lead from. So, all right, I will be Tom. So now you have got the inspiration. Time to put in the perspiration and go out there and get all this done. I will share Justin's letter with everybody once I receive it via email. This will be available on Facebook and replay on our site. So thanks, Justin. Have a great week, and we'll see you guys on Friday.
Thanks, Justin.